Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here with the Money Trekker podcast and in a new venue for today, not in the middle of the mountains, but it was just a nice little background to have on. We are going to today talk a little bit about real estate, specifically the Austin real estate market with Richard Fowler, my co-host of the Austin Top Guns LinkedIn site. And talk a little bit about what's going on, what some winning strategies are for bids, because it's an extremely competitive market right now for real estate. And after the break, Richard's going to talk a little bit about a new program that's offered through his company, Realty Austin, which is helping clients be more successful in these type of offers where they need to, transition from one house to another. So lots of good stuff coming up. Keep online, and we will be here back in just 1 second. Hey, everybody, it's Jeff here once again, Money Trekker podcast, and I have my partner in crime, Richard Fowler from Realty Austin on. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I know your world has been crazy. We talk every week, and I know it's been super crazy in the Austin realty market. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on? I mean, we're now, going into the summer months. Has there been any change, or is it still as crazy as it's been?
Well, yes and no, which is kind of an interesting question. I mean, we went into beginning of this year. January is usually our quietest month for the year, and January 1st, it just took off. And basically, for the next 90 to 120 days, still going on, but it's settled down a little bit. We had people just throwing money at houses, and it really was crazy. I mean, so we're still seeing offers way over list in a lot of places across the city. But we were seeing properties come on and realistically getting 70, 80, 90, 100 offers in a 3 or 4 day stretch. So much so that my brokerage actually launched a new bid platform that allows the buyer's agents to actually bid on that platform, and it actually accumulates all the data and breaks it down so that both the seller of the property and us can actually look at it and compare them together. Because when you have 80 offers coming in, and we have to treat every single offer as a legitimate offer, present it to our clients, it really helped us do that and kind of even the playing field and make sure nobody was getting favorites or whatever. And it actually keeps everybody communicating on the same page. So it's a great platform. But back to your original question, yes, it was just a zoo for the first three or 4 months of this year. And we're starting to see things settle out a little bit. Still very much a ultra sellers market. I mean, a balanced market is 6 months of inventory, sellers and buyers. And we're seeing probably a quarter in Williamson County, 1 week of inventory in Williamson County, and just over 1 week in Travis County right now. So crazy.
What are you seeing on the new construction side? I mean, is it still just, everybody's clamoring for every new house that's being built?
Yes, we're seeing, obviously, well, I'm assuming most people now have heard about the supplies out there and the cost of supplies, lumber specifically, but it's gone to copper and brick and everything else. So we're seeing the builders' supply chain disruptions, and obviously cost is going up. I was talking to one builder in a week's time, a garage door tripled in price. So we're seeing things where the builders are actually building into their contracts appraisal waivers and the right to come back and do a cost plus scenario before move in. And there's a lot of things, a lot of dynamics changing. there's never been a more important time to have a good buyer's agent than there is right now, because just the changing face of everything and looking at the nuances and what the impact can be, and making sure you understand, especially in a new construction, what the long-term impact could be for you is everything.
Well, and I think I mean, it's a good point about buyer's agents. I think a lot of people go, well, I don't really need to have a real estate agent if I go to the local sales office for, whatever builder it is. But that's really an important thing to actually have a buyer's agent. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, you called it out the way it is. It's the local sales office, so it's the builder sales office. So the people that are in there may be the greatest people in the world, but they work for the builder. So their objective is to sell you that home. Okay. So, you know, in the state of Texas, the way it's structured, the buyer's agent is actually paid for by either the existing homeowner, or in a new construction case, they're actually paid for out of the marketing budget for the builder. So it doesn't affect your transaction. And so you get the benefit of the experience and expertise, and you don't have to pay for it. So on the buyer side, I tell everybody, I said, there's no reason not to, and I learned this too. I didn't know this before I got into real estate. There's no reason to not use a buyer's agent. You're not paying for it, but you get the expertise and support going through the whole process. And in my case, I've been involved in client selection meetings on stuff because they want a realtor perspective. If we invest in this, how is it going to help us on the other end? I'm always looking at the ROI when you eventually sell the property, even if it's going to be your forever home, which we hear a lot, right? But I've been to selection meetings. I go through phased inspections on the build itself to make sure everything's done right. You don't end up with the beer cans or the Dorito chip bags in your walls when they close up the walls, or worse than that, the wrong plumbing or the wrong electrical in the wrong places. So, we do find things, and going through that whole process with the client and being there every step of the way and representing them with the builder is very important, especially in this climate.
Well, and I'm guessing that with the way they're rapidly building things, they're potentially, some builders might be cutting some corners. So having somebody else that has more experience looking at it is well worth it. And I mean, it's just silly not to have somebody involved in that process. I just don't understand why you wouldn't.
I walked through a frame. I won't say who the builder was, but I walked through a frame home recently that was on the uh, for sale for $950,000, and it looked like somebody down the street had gotten hammer and nails and put some of the framing together on it. I couldn't even figure out what some of the framing was for, and it didn't look like it was structurally sound. And I'm not even a framer. I just, based on what I've seen in my experience and just walking through, I'm like, okay. So it's, you have to
That
protect
doesn't
yourself.
seem normal.
Well, you have to think about it, or they're scrapping for, there's so much demand right now and there's so little supply. And so they can pretty much dictate what's going on. And we actually have it where things have flipped in the market, where the service personnel are actually driving a lot of the things that are going on, because they have so much business, they can pick and choose what they want to do and where they want to work. And so anytime you get, the more oversight they get sometimes, unless they're really professional crews, the more oversight they get, sometimes they're like, well, I get less oversight over here if I go over and do this. So, all that has to be managed too. So,
Now, I know you and I have talked about, I guess with Realty Austin, you guys have a network of other real estate brokerages around the country that you network with. And I know we were having a conversation about some other markets, especially on the West Coast. What can you tell us a little bit about some of those other areas that are out there? I mean, is this across the board across the country, or is it really kind of an Austin weird thing?
it's interesting. It's actually a really good question. Realty Austin set up well, first off, we're part of the leading RE global relocation network. So we can actually help sell and find houses and properties around the world. And as of the end of, I think it was the end of March, we already hit $2 billion in sales for this year. We did like 4.2 last year. Obviously, we're looking to blow that out of the water this year. So we do a lot of real estate, and we're one of the top brokers in that program. Um, they actually set up our brokerage, Realty Austin actually set up a broker to broker conference to hot areas around the United States so that we could talk to them and frankly learn about their best practices and things that they're doing in these hyper velocity markets, high demand, low supply. And it was interesting because we were talking to two brokers out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and of course, if you listen to the news or anything in Austin at all, it's like everybody's moving here from California. I mean, 30+% of who we get is from California. I saw a stat, I think it was yesterday, in 2019, we had like 186 people moving here a day. It was net, and that's after people were leaving. But anyway, I was talking to them. We were having this conversation with them out there, and they've been in a hyper market for years. And what was interesting is with all the people moving to Texas and other places, they're still in a very hyper market out there. They still have low supply and high demand. And oh, by the way, the number one place that's coming to Texas is from California. The number one place Texans are going to is California. So there's a lot of people going back and forth, which is interesting. But just having those conversations with them about how they manage their market, and I was shocked to hear, just based on what I had heard, I was shocked to hear that they were having such demand out there. And so, to your question, is as I've gone around to Houston and Dallas and other places in our country, we're seeing huge demand out there. It's like there's a big, with the pandemic and everything like that, there seems to be a big exodus from mainly the coastal states, across the United States. And it's like everybody's kind of, we don't have to be brick and mortar anymore, so we can kind of work from anywhere. So we're seeing a lot of demand. And I mean, I was talking to somebody else they had some family that was in like Idaho in the middle of nowhere, and they were talking about how their family was talking about the demand for houses and stuff out there too. So I don't know where all these people are coming from, but there's a lot of demand out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some place in the country where real estate prices are going down because of net movement out of these states. So maybe it's New York or whatever it is, but I just don't get it, man. Like I said, even real estate prices rocketing up in California. I mean, with the vast majority of people, or a big chunk of people moving out, I can't imagine that there's a net positive moving in, but apparently it is, or maybe
I
it's
was,
just that
yeah,
Silicon Valley area.
I was shocked by that. I was like, really? That was, I mean, if they had told me a neutral market, I might have been a little surprised. But the fact that they're still in a hyper, demand market out there, I was actually quite surprised. As if you know anything about real estate, it's hard to move from here to the San Francisco Bay Area unless you have some money. So it's
You
challenging.
aren't going to be placing cash offers out there, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah.
So what are some kind of winning strategies? And I don't want you to give away too much of the secrets, but what are some winning strategies that people can have, going into this kind of crazy seller's market? What are some things that they can do to make sure that they win the end bid?
Well, I mean, it really starts with the realtor. I mean, hiring the right realtor, because I actually have had quite a few buyers this year that I basically had to tell them, this is not your year to go after these. You're just not in the financial position to go after these properties or what you're looking for. And it's even starts before that. My first question to them when they call me up and hey, I'm looking to sell, or I'm looking to buy. The first thing is to talk about what are they thinking, what are their goals, what are their objectives. All sounds very foundational, blocking and tackling, right? But I mean, you'd be surprised how many people just jump into something and they don't realize there is a strategy to purchasing, there's a strategy to selling. I've got a couple of listings right now where my first question, well, it's actually all of them, but my two right now that come to mind, my first question to them was, okay, you want to sell, where are you going? Let's talk about what your plan is, because I mean, selling's not a problem, buying is the problem. So if you're planning on selling to buy, we need to figure out a strategy to do that. And what's your long-term plan and what are you trying to do? We kind of go through that whole process. And I've got people that I've talked out of listing this year just because they're not in a position to get into something else based on their unique their financial situation and what they're trying to do. And obviously our goal is to try to meet the needs of both our clients, whether they're buying or selling. And I vet every opportunity or every I guess possibility for them to make sure that when we get to that, that's just the right decision. But sometimes that is the right decision for them. When they're thinking they're going to sell one house and buy a bigger house in a certain area, and then you start looking at the numbers and where they are and stuff like that. And it's just like, hey, I don't think this is realistic. I don't want to, I don't want you to not have a house, number one, and I don't want you to be totally stressed out through the whole process. Because
Are you seeing it come across the board, even on the rental side of the market and stuff like that? Because, I know you and I have talked about this. It's like, do you sell your house and rent for a couple years and then, wait until the market changes? Are you seeing rental rates going up as well across the board?
we are seeing them going up. It's interesting because I think that's going to take off. I mean, I think it's going to take off and accelerate exponentially here in the near future, just because it's kind of lagging behind what else is going on. But when you talk about new builds, new constructions, typically a new construction, is about a 6-month build. They typically quote, 6 to 8 months or 8 to 10 months before all this craziness happened. I was doing one in Treviso last year, and they quoted me 12 to 14 months on the build. And I'm like, excuse me, did I hear you correctly? And they're like, yeah. And so we were talking about that. I had some this year that were quoting, 12 to 16 months. And so you're looking at a year and a half in the future, and so you got to manage through all of that. What are interest rates are going to be? You just look at these things I was talking about with the changes in the contracts, and I mean, all that have to be addressed. And so it's a really interesting situation out there when you're looking that far into the future about buying a house, and it really puts a lot of challenges on sellers and buyers, depending if they're leaving the state. I've got one client right now that wants to sell their house and they want to buy in Tucson. So through our global RE network, I set them up with an agent in Tucson, and they went out there and started looking at properties. And literally, they were prepared to, make an offer on a property when I went out there, and then they got sticker shock. They go, "I think it's worse there than it is in Austin." And so they came back after, looking at houses for 5 days, and came back and said, "We're going to have to reevaluate, if this is where we're going or what we're planning on doing and stuff like that." So they're kind of in that trying to figure it out pattern right now. We're having ongoing discussions about that and whether they're going to go to Tucson or somewhere else, because they have the flexibility to go to another city if they wish. So we'll see. Whoop, did I
I
lose
think
you?
that thing becomes, I think that becomes really interesting where, if you're moving to another hot market, it's like, okay, it's not any better. It's worse everywhere, and I think a lot of it is what we were talking about. People are like, well, hey, I mean, I can work remotely from anywhere, so I'm going to choose where I want to live. And, everybody's making this big shuffle around. It's going to take a little bit of, stabilization, or finally everybody will kind of move to where they need to at that point. I know one of the things that's out there that we've had a conversation about before is this foreclosure moratorium that could affect, maybe some of the downside of the market, or the lower ends of the market. What's your thoughts on that, or where? Yeah, have you heard any more news about that ending anytime soon?
I don't know about when it's, as far as the ending. They keep kicking the can down the road, so to speak. Obviously, at least we won't get into much of the government stuff, but we're seeing them try to help out both the landlords, or the owners and the tenants to some degree. From a housing standpoint, with the disruption and the pandemic and stuff like that, obviously we hope that most people will be able to find new jobs or get back in place where they can take care of their home and things like that. But there's going to be a spike in the market of people that just need to sell. I mean, I guess the positive side of it is that in this market they can sell and make good money on their house. The downside is they got to find a place to go, and we have and it has to be like everything else in proximity to work and schools, and ideally anyway. So um, I've got a client right now. I think you started talking about this before, but I had a client right now that is looking to cash out right now and rent for a while and then come back in, later on when maybe we have a reset in the market or whatever. mean, it's sort of like playing the stock market, right? You just, you can talk to five experts about what the market's going to do, and all five of them will tell you, or two will say this and two will say that or whatever. So the dynamics are is that, it looks like we're going to have a pretty strong market for the next few years, but beyond that, it's anybody's guess. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's going to be the economy and job situation. That's typically what drives all of that is,
Mhm.
when you start to see a slowdown. I mean, in a mature market, and we're in a mature stock market, we're in a mature economy at this point, and I don't think we're completely at the top and rolling down the other side, but I mean, the potential, with as much as the government's spending right now on and wants to spend, I mean, that's an inflationary thing. And I mean, as soon as inflation starts to to creep in, then that has an effect on interest rates, which means has an effect on properties
Buying
and
power.
affordability and everything else. I mean, there's a lot that could affect that, but in the end, you got to figure out, okay, what's right for us right now. And last thing you want to do is sell your house and then get stuck in an apartment for the next 5 years trying to wait for it and wait for it. And it reminds me of the people that sell out of the markets and in a downdraft, and then keep wanting to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait to get back in. And when's the best day to get in? Probably yesterday, in most of those cases. So
Well, if I could foretell the future, I'd be retired by now. But
absolutely.
it's interesting. I have a neighbor that sold their house last year, thinking it was top of the market to go into a rental, and obviously they've been beating themselves up because if they had waited 6 or 8 months, they would have made far more money on their property than they
Yeah,
did. And
coulda,
I have
shoulda, woulda.
Yeah, and I have another client that asked me that question literally 3 weeks ago, and said, I'm thinking about selling and moving into another property. Yes, a couple properties. And he goes, "Do you think we're at the height? What do you think?" I said, "Look, I can show you the data. So I'm a big data person. I like to see what the data is doing. I can show you the data. I can tell you the market conditions right now. And guarantee you, you're going to get more money than you ever thought you would for your house at this point in time. Whether that's going to be more in 6 or 8 months like the other people, I can't tell you. I mean, if something changes, it looks good, but if
Yeah.
something changes, I don't know. And realistically, like we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, is that the hypervelocity of the market that we saw in the first 90 days of this year was unbelievable. I mean, it really is. I mean, I was just looking at the data a little bit ago, and the median home price now in the Round Rock, Austin MSA is like $425,000. I mean, it's
It's
amazing, right? And I was looking at the data on Cedar Park, and we're still selling. Most uh, average offer prices, average sold prices are coming in over 10% over list.
mhm.
It's about 16.7 over. So, when you start having those conversations with clients, I had one that, I was talking to them for a while, and they wanted to be in Cedar Park, and they were telling me that they were never going to do more than 50,000 over list. And I told them, okay, but I said, this is what I'm seeing with my other clients and what I'm seeing in the area. And, in this market, we're seeing, 75, 80, 100,000 over list. And I said, I'm just, letting you know that, so I said, well, we lost out on a couple, and then they went in strong at 100,000 and then the next one, and they got beat out on that one. And then it was one of those ones where we ended up having to go a little higher than that to win. So, um, but they won, so that's a good thing. But it was
Yeah.
just like, having those conversations with people, like, okay, this is the list price, and this is kind of where you're going to have to play to win. And frankly, it's hard to know because everybody, all the listing agents, myself included, are raising our list prices, our clients' list prices based on the most recent sold data. So you
Mhm.
have that coming up based on what the market has been doing. And then you're still seeing the arrears trend of what's closing and what that looks like. So you're kind of in a catch 22. Okay. It was running about 75,000 over here, but I know the pricing is up here. So what does that look like on an offer price? You know, you need a good buyer's agent. I'll just tell you that. It's crazy.
Back to the original conversation. You need a good buyer's agent to help you do that.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a quick break for our sponsors, and when we come back, I want Richard to tell us a little bit about the upcoming a program that Realty Austin has that I think is just really super innovative, especially works extraordinarily well in this market, especially as people are making transitions and moving and everything else. So hang on for just a few minutes. Please listen to our sponsors, and we will be right back on with you. Hey, it's Jeff here for T-Works Coworking. T-Works Coworking is a shared office space with everything from desks for you to share up to offices and everything in between. And T-Works has locations in Cedar Park, Texas, in Northwest Austin in the Four Points area, and Dripping Springs. So if you need a place to work, you need to get out of the house, you need some help really building up your business, visit www.t-works.com. That's www.t-works.com. Hello, it's Jeff here for BK Wealth Consulting. BK Wealth Consulting is a wealth management and registered investment advisory firm with a little bit of a twist. BK works specifically with small business owners and self-employed individuals. And the whole idea is to help business owners and self-employed folks figure out a strategy to exit from their businesses. So whether it is a business valuation, developing an investment and financial plan and strategy, or developing an exit strategy plan for your business, BK is there to help you and has the skills and the talent to do it. So if you want to learn more, go to www.bkawealth.com. That is www.bkawealth.com. Hey everybody, it's Jeff here. Welcome back. And Richard and I are going to continue our conversation now and talk a little bit about a new program or a program that Realty Austin offers. So Richard, you want to kind of catch us up on that?
We actually have because of the marketplace, we actually have a program that we use with a strategic partner of ours with Realty Austin, which, because we were one of the first brokerages in on this, allowed us to get some special pricing and stuff like that, which ultimately helps our clients. But it allows, with the pandemic and everything that was going on, it actually allows you to buy your next house before you sell your current house. And you can buy that next house with cash. So it's an interesting program that, we started looking at people that may or may not, hopefully we're working our way out of this whole COVID nightmare, but, especially back when this was launched, the people that didn't really want people in their houses. I mean, you got family in there, you got exposure, things like that. It wasn't an ideal time to have people coming in. In fact, we pivoted with a lot more video and things like that also for clients to help with that. But, it gave somebody that wants to sell and somebody that needs a place to go, right? It gave them the ability to find the place they want to go, purchase the place that they want to go with the cash offer, and then go back and sell their other property. So they can actually go ahead and move into the new property, and I can get the other property ready for them or ready for market and get ready to sell. And they don't have to have people coming in, that exposure and things like that. It takes out a lot of the stress of, double or possibly triple moves and warehousing and the whole stress of trying to, the contingency offer. And in this market, contingencies are being accepted anyway. So you have to figure that out. And this market, cash has been very strong competing against financed offers too. It's not always the one that wins, but it gives you a strong position if you go in with the cash offer. So it just gives you a lot of flexibility. Of course, you don't get anything for free. It's usually 1% cost on the purchase property that you pay at closing. So, but when you start factoring in what it costs you to move at least a couple times and the warehousing of your stuff, and frankly, the stress that you go through trying to balance all that out, and if you can even do that in this market, I think it's a winning program. So, and because of the success we had with that program, and then we actually launched the second program that allowed people that didn't even have a house to sell, that just wanted to go without a finance offer, though they could actually transition into a cash offer to give them the benefits of competing with the cash offer. And that program actually was going through, if you use the mortgage company that's designated, it was at no cost to you. So you basically could convert from a financed offer into a cash offer to give you a stronger negotiation position on offers you were making. So a couple of good programs.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just, it's innovative and allowing you to at least have a competitive advantage going into these. Now, does it solve the problem of some of this like overpriced real estate? I mean, you still are going to have to, I'm assuming, have to come to the table with some cash because they're still going to want to appraise based on.
I mean, it doesn't help you. It really doesn't help you with the overpricing or price plus list. And what it does do is that, especially when we were, seeing, well, even today, but when we were seeing 70 offers or some, crazy numbers out there, but even today when you're seeing, let's just say it's 2 or 3. I mean, if you're trying to win against 2 or 3 and it only takes 1, right? So you don't know how strong that offer is going to be. And if you're competing against an offer where, you're a cash and they're financed, or you're cash to cash, it can be whatever the strongest offer is. The other thing is that both with the builders and with the, existing home sellers, they're pretty much dictating what you have to do to win. And so I've never seen this before, but, there's been suggested things. We'll view your offer more favorably if you do this, this, or you waive this, or whatever. Now it's like, well, we'll really view your offer better if you, and there's a laundry list of things that they come through with. And so we see that. And so we actually have buyers that have gotten, and I hate to use the word desperation, but, like for some of the stuff, it seems that way. They've gotten to the point where they're waiving, appraisal waiver, where they're waiving whatever it appraises out. We're buying the house. That's an out for a buyer. Obviously, a seller doesn't want to have that out in place, so we see offers coming in that have the appraisal waiver on them. So basically, whatever that property appraises for, you're paying for it. So, or losing your earnest money if you can't cover it. And the other thing that we see that's, in some ways you could argue is even crazier, is waiving the option period, where they can go in and kick the tires and understand what it is they're buying. And so we've seen some people do that too, and offers. And a lot of times we've seen people waive option and appraisal waivers. So it's basically, even on finance off, with the finance offer, we're buying this house no matter what. And it's you're as a buyer's agent, you have to have those conversations with your buyer, making sure that they fully understand that they're waiving their rights for protection, when they're purchasing these homes. And so it's, sometimes it's better to walk away. So you have to have those conversations and make sure that the buyer understands just what they're doing. So these programs that we're talking about, one of the positives to them is that it since it's a cash offer, it takes care of the appraisal waiver. You don't have to worry about that. And it does require that you have an option period. So both of those things are addressed up front. So when you make the offer, that, it's cash. You don't have to worry about being appraised. And on the other side, there is an option period, so you can kick the tires and see what you're buying. And frankly, as a listing agent on my side, I prefer to have an option period, like a shorter option period, but I prefer to have an option period because the buyers are going to, typically we're going to negotiate what that option period amount is. And I've seen, used to be $150, $200, $250, $500, whatever. We're seeing thousands of dollars. The craziest one I heard was $50,000 on an option period. They were basically buying that house. And, but an incentive for them to put money in for my clients, right? And the other side of it is that, there's, the buyer has a better understanding of what the property is and what they're buying, so that there's less chance of litigation later on. Plus they have to pay for the inspections too. So they've got skin in the game. And so I, as a listing agent, I advise my sellers, let's get a little skin in the game. If they terminate, first of all, that we usually check out our houses pretty well, so we know they're in pretty good condition when we put them on the market. But it just gives us a stronger position with the buyers and making sure the buyers are ultimately happy with the house. So.
Absolutely. Well, great. How does somebody get a hold of you?
You can call me at 512-925-5650 or Fowler, Fowler, at realtyaustin.com.
Very cool. Well, Richard, thanks a lot. This was fantastic information. This won't be the first time or the last time that we have Richard on. Like I said, we're the administrators and and owners of the Realty or the
Austin Top Guns on
Austin
LinkedIn.
Top Guns. Yeah, my brain's just totally shut off.
Good.
Of the Austin Top Guns group on LinkedIn. The Austin Top Guns group, just if you don't know what it is, basically it's a group of senior folks within different organizations, all different industries. And it's a group that's been around for, I think, a little over 10, 12 years, Richard?
Yeah, we kind of came to fruition back in 2008, 2009.
Okay.
But yeah, there's just strength in people. I mean, if you network or if you don't network, I mean, there's strength in networking, and there's strength in I think multi-industry networking, because you get perspectives you wouldn't get otherwise. And I think we're all stronger together when we network. And
Yep.
so that was the kind of the basis for the group. And look forward to networking with as many people as I can.
I know. So the Top Guns group's about 3,800 people. I think the last time I looked, we're pressing on 4,000, mostly here in the Austin metro area, but we've got a few folks from other places around the country that have some interest in Austin, that they want to stay connected. One of the things now that we're coming out of the pandemic, more and more, we'll be having more in-person events. We'll have a few webinars and things like that. So what I'd encourage you to do, in the show notes page, I'm going to include a link to the Top Guns section on LinkedIn. We'd encourage you to join on, apply for membership, and we'll take a look at your profile and see if you fit the group, and then from there invite you in. And we encourage you to get involved. We encourage you to be involved in all the stuff that's going on. We'll be sponsoring a couple networking events per month going forward, as well as a lot of other things that are really tailored to the group of folks that we have. So we really love to have you as part of the group, and more than that, instead of just signing on and becoming part of the group, becoming an active member of the group is much more important. That's what's going to help you to build relationships, and help you to build relationships with other business folks, and certainly other business owners and senior people within companies. So thanks for joining us today. As always, we do about 3 shows a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Fridays are always our Friday focus, our financial focus with Tom Kemmler or somebody from the BK Wealth team. We typically will do other shows during the week. Wednesdays are really set up for these type of situations where we bring on an expert like Richard to talk about some of the things that are going on in their areas of expertise. All of these kind of tailored to that business owner and leadership within businesses, so that we can help keep abreast of all the things that are going on. So with that, thanks a lot. We'll see you back here. Certainly join us on any of the podcast channels. If you can, give us a 5-star rating on the ones where you can give us a rating. And also feel free to leave comments. We respond to those, and also that helps us to build more information from the audience, so to speak, and it allows you to interact with us, and then we can put stuff onto the show. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you back here next time.